On my end, as everybody knows, my function on a daily basis is dealing with Wall Street, and trying to do that in 60 seconds is next to impossible. I think everybody is very focused on what is transpiring or what has transpired since specifically late 2008 within the marketplace, the volatility we see now, what's taking place on a global basis with the Middle East, with Europe, and the US economy. And so there's a tremendous amount of anxiety out there, a lot of concern, and everybody's questioning kind of where we go from here. So what a great opportunity as a believer in the marketplace, trying to communicate your faith, biblical values on managing wealth, and trying to counsel people that ultimately it's all God's anyways. So.
Hey, Doug, let me just follow up on that. Doug and I basically sit next to each other at church almost every week, so we've gotten to be friends. You were with Merrill Lynch between those rough, 2007, 2008 periods. What was that like, being with Merrill Lynch essentially as the ship was sinking before it was sort of rescued by the Bank of America?
Well, again, it's the client side and dealing with clients and clients on a daily basis being exposed to the media, turning on the television, wondering, what's going to happen? Are firms going to be around? Are the Lehmans of the world, are they going to be here, which ultimately is gone? Is this going to be the ultimate meltdown in the entire economy? So it's twofold. It's dealing with clients and trying to curb clients' anxieties, letting them know ultimately we will get through this. Who knows what it's going to be when we come out on the other side? And then it's the personal side, frankly, is the anxiety on a daily basis, turning on your computer early in the morning and trying to figure out what's going on and trying to get through that on a personal basis, both from a physical and a mental standpoint. And it takes its, Scott, to answer your question, the physical toll was amazing. And I think in going through that whole process, the only way I got through was two components. Is number one is having a strong faith and spending time in the Word daily. And then lastly, relieving the anxiety is exercise. The only way I could do it is go out and exercise every day and trying to maintain my sanity.
So I think it's fair to say that in the midst of this market meltdown, your faith was a significant part of being in survival mode.
No question whatsoever, in trying to communicate that to both believers and unbelievers that I deal with as well.
Okay, John, tell us just really briefly what does liquid metal do, and where are we likely to see your products?
Yeah, basically, Liquid Metal is a company I've been working on for about 10 years now. And I transitioned that to the management team over there. But Liquid Metal, the whole concept is it's a technology that was discovered at a university, actually at Caltech, in conjunction with NASA. And it's what we consider the next generation metal technology. It's metals that are basically 2 to 3 times stronger than normal metals, and it has ability to be processed like plastic. So in theory, it's pretty awesome. But like most new technologies, theory's great. You got to put it into reality, and reality's taking a lot longer. But it's finally coming to fruition. We did a partnership with Apple last year, where they're looking to take it into a lot of their products. We did a partnership with Swatch, where they're going to. And Swatch is the leading watch brand in the world. If you guys don't know that, Swatch is the lowest brand. They have about 28 brands that go up from $2 to about $100,000 per watch. So they're going to take it into the watch category, and so we think there's a lot of applicability in a lot of different areas. So we're pretty excited about that. But that's sort of where that is.
All right. So yeah, but liquid.
Is that good enough?
That's helpful. Liquid Metal, though, was not your first company. In fact, from what I understand, you've lived every business person's dream and nightmare at the same time. I mean, I don't know too many people who are on the front page of the Wall Street Journal when you sold your company, and then on the front page of the Wall Street Journal when the Securities and Exchange Commission came calling. tell us a little bit about that journey, and it's particularly, you know, where God was, where your faith was in that difficult journey.
Yeah, yeah, and I probably, from a business and the world perspective, probably lived out every aspect of what a business person probably lives out. I related to Wayne, by the way, because I majored in economics at Harvard too, so I figured that's a pretty good start when he said that last night. So, but having said that, I wasn't called into the ministry. I felt that business is really where God has gifted me, and that's where I was called into. And sort of my gifting this area of looking at businesses, looking at the strategic side. And so I started off in consulting, which led to getting involved in businesses and helping them to develop strategies around businesses. So really after college, for probably the first 15 years, just been involved in different businesses and helping them to grow and take it to the next level. Started with small companies, which eventually led to, in the mid-90s, where I started running a software company that was in the healthcare space. Took it over when it was only had one office, 6 people. We eventually grew it, took it public in '97, and then we became the most dominant software company in the physician space. And so was able to take that, and if you guys recall, internet became a craze all of a sudden in the late '90s, and we all, you know, we talk about, you know, going hyper, right? When people really don't, and greed took over and went beyond what it was supposed to do. But that's when, and we became really a hot commodity at the time. And so in the year 2000, at the peak of I call it the peak of the internet, because we sold our company in February of 2000. And and basically we made you know, at that time I was 36, and you know, we were the largest deal in that era in the healthcare space. We merged with WebMD. It was announced, I think, combined, we're a $20 billion company at the time, and our company alone was valued close to $7 billion. And and it was, that was, you know, on one hand, from a business person's perspective, that's what you strive for, right? I mean, that's kind of, when you take kids into business school, and what do you say, what's your goal? How do you want to be successful in business? You want to take a company, you know, without knowing anything about it, you talk about, well, I want to take a company public, and, you know, I want to do all these things. Well, you know, by God's grace, I got to experience some of those things, and it really was an incredible experience. I can remember sitting at that table, sitting around, you know, because I was a CEO, and we had a bunch of the bankers there, and I think we had a table when we were doing the deal. Table was about the size of half of this room. And we had, I think, had about 50 seats, and about half of them were filled with attorneys. And I was realizing it was costing us about $10,000 an hour to just be sitting at this table. And I was like, man, this is a waste of time and money. But it was, you know, so it's, and you can almost remove yourself from there. It's almost a surreal experience of seeing, and you know, but at the same time, I knew that was the path that God has taken me, and I was very grateful for every part of the journey that God has taken me through. Because, well, one part I forgot to tell you guys is that you guys would appreciate. My dad was a pastor, and I grew up in a small Southern Baptist church, and knew what it was like to grow up in a pastor's family, just all of the aspects of that, and really appreciated all of that. And kind of actually felt gypped when I felt like I wasn't called into the ministry. So you guys will appreciate that. And so in that sense, it kind of makes the reason why I'm here, because I always felt a little bit like a second-class citizen, right? All throughout my whole career, like, wait a minute, my dad got called into the ministry, and how come I didn't get called into that, and how come I'm called over here? But going back to my journey, but I really always felt that I was supposed to use the business platform for God's purposes. And so, you know, we made the front page of the Wall Street Journal in February of 2000 as, you know, the biggest healthcare deal, and how we were going to reshape healthcare and all of those things. After that, based upon that, I started Liquid Metal. Took Liquid Metal public in 2002 with the help of Merrill Lynch, who was my lead banker at the time.
Maybe I should have stayed. Huh?
Yeah, no, and I think it was the right thing, and you know, and so and took the company public a little too soon, but but really be able to use and was in the marketplace and be able to develop the technology. But in 2003, I had the SEC and the FBI knock on my door, and it turned out on that day we also made the front page of the Wall Street Journal because with FBI agents taking boxes out of our offices. And what had happened was one of the guys that had worked for me while I was at managing, we sold and merged with WebMD and I left, but the company that I was running, a guy who was doing the M&A activity wound up stealing almost $6 million from the company while I was there and after I'd left, and WebMD was running the business. And basically when he got caught, the logic and the argument he used was, everybody in the company knew it, and so he turned it into a whistleblower case. And that was his way of minimizing his sentence, which our government is great to allow them people to do, because that allows, because as we learn, we're all people, right? Whether you're in politics, whether you're in the judicial system, wherever it is, we're all motivated a lot by selfish things. And, but I got to, from 2007 till actually through last year, I got to go through the journey of being basically under the scrutiny of the US government for basically conspiring and helping this guy to basically steal money from the company. They didn't find anything, so they indicted 10 of us, the 10 senior management of the company, hoping that one would turn on the other, and as a result, they'll be able to validate this guy's story and be able to win the case and so make their careers. By God's grace, all 10 guys, which I don't think it's ever happened before. They never expected it. Even though they offered deals, nobody ever turned on the truth. And eventually, and you guys will like this interesting part of. I've really experienced every aspect of the business world. So after 7 years and finding no evidence, the government felt impelled to, and we pushed them to take it to trial. And so basically at the time, because, and by the way, we had 11 billion documents in the case. Shows you how good our government is. We filled up 100,000 square foot warehouse. And by the way, by God's grace, I got to live this whole experience being under indictment and running another public company. And I've really, as I tell you guys, I felt called into the business. And while I was there, I was really praying through, should I step down? What should I do? And while I stepped down last year after the case ended, while the case was going on, I never felt called to step down. I felt God saying, John, this is the journey that I have for you. You're supposed to be in the, you're going to go through this. I'm with you, but you're going to have to go through this journey in the spotlight, which I didn't like at all. But so we went to trial, no evidence in the case. Basically, we didn't even present our case because there's no evidence that was presented. So our attorney said, and basically we closed the case and asked the judge to take it to the jury. And the judge, amazingly at the time said, we thought you guys would do that. And, we had some of the best attorneys, obviously, money can buy, being, part of a large public company, and we're able to get all the right attorneys and get great advice. And having no evidence, basically, the jury, this was a very long trial, very complicated trial. Jury came back a day later, literally one day, and found me and my COO guilty. And it's it was interesting when we asked the jury afterwards, they asked the jury why they found us guilty, even though there was absolutely no evidence whatsoever with all the stuff. Basically the common theme they came back was, well, these guys are too smart not to have known that somebody was stealing money from the company. Kind of shows you how the logic of a lot of these people work. Of course, we didn't even appeal the case to the higher court. We just appealed it to the judge, saying, hey, judge, this absolutely doesn't make any sense. And interesting, something that never happens in the judicial system, that judge actually overthrew his own jury's verdict and basically dismissed the case, which shows you how much, how the case was really played itself out. But the interesting part of the journey was having felt like, and knowing that I was called into the to business as really is my calling. And God has given me, and I really believe every step of success was part of what God has blessed me with. And then having to go through this, what I call it, from a world's perspective, pretty humiliating experience. But I'll tell you, that was also the part of the journey that God has planned out for me. And I think I learned more in those 7 years of experiencing God's faithfulness, how He's taken care of my family, how He took care of just liquid metal as I think as great as it will do. Those times are very tough in the sense that, could you imagine somebody who's under indictment by the government trying to run a public company in an R&D state, running out of money and not quite sure what to do next. So it was just an incredible walk of faith for me. And I'll tell you, sometimes being on the, when you're thinking about seminary students, when you're thinking about, raising the next group of pastors, I don't think you sometimes think about the challenges that people on the business side face as they try to live out God's calling in their lives, right? And I think that's one of the greatest aspects. I think it can help the students understand that and the pastors understand that. I think it just has an opportunity to really awaken the laymen within the pews and really allow them to have an incredible impact in helping the churches really fulfill its ministry as well. So. Sorry for the long story.
Yeah, John, thank you. I suspect there will be a few more questions from the floor on that as the time goes. But I appreciate your vulnerability on that. And it sounds like God was very, very much present.
He was. He was very faithful
during that time.